So before we start shading our final, I want to try a little bit of practice with a couple different tools. One, I wanted to see what type of values I could create with the H pencil. Because if you look at your reference with the light source, now I printed this out just so I could use it as an example. All right, I got a variety of different values, from everything from a 7 here to a 0 value here. All right, and there's some zeros, ones, two, three, all of the 7 stages in the value scale. So using the H pencil, I know I'm going to get light values. Even if I press hard to create a shadow with the H pencil, you can see that and I'm barely pressing, I'm creating a 3 value. If I press hard with this, you can see it's somewhere in the 4 range. All right, so you can create medium values with an H pencil. One of the other tools, obviously, that we're going to be using is the regular pencil. So, we know the values that we can create with the number 2 pencil from the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 family. Another tool that we're going to be using here is when we see areas of soft tone in a reference photo. For example, the transition here from this 0 value into this 1 and this 1.5, 2, and then back to a 1 to a 0. To get a smooth transition, we can use what we call the blending stump or the blending tortilla. It's just a rolled up piece of paper that has a point and allows you to create interesting and or smooth values depending on what you're trying to create. So with an H pencil, which I have here, I can create a certain value, but when I use a blending tortilla on it, since it doesn't have as much graphite in it, it doesn't soften as much. Now there's a problem with the blending tortilla. When I go in to shade this, all too often students get to the point where they think everything needs to have this blending done with the blending tortilla, and it doesn't. It could become to the point where it gets too smudged out that clear and concise edges of separation, like you see here, right? 0 value transitions into a 1 value. This smooth transition here, right? They can overblend using the blending tortilla. So before we start on the final, I want you to kind of take a look at what and how the blending tortilla works on this paper. All right, so you can see there's still some texture there when I use the H pencil. If I'm using the H pencil to create a soft tone, I barely press. You see how where I was holding it? And then just with the texture of the paper, you can create a soft tone. If I do need to create an edge of separation, right, like I mentioned here, that smooth transition from a 0 value into a 1 value, what I would do is I might take on a scrap piece of paper, I might take the H with a number 2 pencil and put that value in like this because there's more graphite in that. And I can use this, soften that, and use it as a source. So what I just softened there, I could pick up and I can create a nice soft tone right there just by using it like a blob of paint, right? Just picking up the color and using it to create a soft tone. So I want to try some of the values on my rough before I put anything down onto the final. So I'm just going to keep this around. I'm going to keep this here too, so I can look at the values and try to create some of the accurate values that I need from this. All right. Obviously, light areas of tone like I have in here, I'm going to create light areas of tone on my rough. So it's very, very soft tone right there. These lines here that I created when I did the original sketch are probably going to need to be lightened a little bit or erased. But since it's my rough, I'm just going to come in with my H pencil and I'm going to put in the values as I see them. Okay, I'm following the edges of contour line, right? See, this contour line is this edge right here. And that comes up There's a little bit of a highlight right there. Now, this strong shape right here gets really dark there. I'm just going to lightly reference that. And then I'm going to use my number 2 pencil to incorporate those values in. But I want to go light to dark. So I'm going to slowly build the light values. I got that soft tone right there. So I want to see what the blending tortillin will do. So I'm trying to recreate this soft value in there. It's a little bit darker here. It's a little bit of pressure. And again, all of these little contours are going to be dealt with just the same way we did with the fracture drawing. Because all of those little creases are like the edges of separation in the fracture drawing. A little highlight on that edge, so then I can just kind of work some of this down. So let's see what type of values I can use with the blending tortillin using the H pencil. Since again, it's a harder graphite, see I can come in and soften that value up. I can see that this is darker. And I can use the blending tortillin not to blend too much away, but to just help soften and create smooth transitions from a medium value to a light value. You can see it doesn't give me much because I don't have a lot of graphite on there. Soften that a little bit, but I'm not over blending. It doesn't take much to overblend using a blending tortillin. So even here where I have this half value, I can just use what I have on the blender and create that half value in there. I can see I got a little bit of that back here, so I can kind of pull some of that down and soften it. You can see that it gets a little bit smoother through here. All right, and then I've got this full-on edge of separation between that cast shadow right there, and I can create that. Now watch as I create that soft transition from the 0 to the 1 right here. Just going to use the blending tortillin the same way, create that soft edge right along here. And again, I can't have any outlines, so if I just soften the line that I created for the shoulder, and then I'll just soften a little bit. Those dark values, I got a little bit of a highlight there, and soften that. Now, when I go into this cast shadow here, you can see there's a little bit of a rim of a reflected light right along that edge. I'm going to use my 2 pencil, leave a little bit of space for the thickness of the ellipse. I can see that it comes out from under here, very, very tight. So that gives me that transition going across here. And I'm not going to overblend this. I'm just going to soften the edge because I don't have to. See, it's not doing much because the graphite's soft. So I'm just going to soften that edge. See how it kind of transitions a little bit right here. Just soften that edge, but it's a sharp edge up against that dark value. All right. So take a little time and practice some of the shading on the rough. Once you get a good handle on it, you can use the techniques when we actually start on the shading for the final.